Hello, everybody. My name is Phil MacDougall. I am the president of the National Automobile Museum and also the host today. You are on What Drives Reno. But before we get into it with our guests here today, this is really about what drives Northern Nevada. Would you agree? We're not just talking about Reno, we're talking about Northern Nevada. And with me today, I have a great lineup here. I have Mike Larragueta. He is the president and CEO of the Reno-Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. Next to him, I have Taylor Adams. He is the president and CEO of Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada, and that is known as EDAWN.
That's right. Thanks, Phil.
And then also Daren Griffin. He is the president and CEO of the Reno-Tahoe Airport Authority. Did I get all those titles right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming here today and starting off this new podcast show with us. We're going to just jump right in and talk about the big picture. So each of your organizations represent a very specific need and objective. But could you talk about how your organization, or what the role is in regional growth? And who wants to kick that off?
Sure, I'll jump in there, Phil. So regional growth from the airport perspective really comes in a couple of different ways. And first is the one that everybody usually thinks of with an airport, which is air service. Air service development, obviously really important to make us as connected with the rest of the country and the world as we can. And so we're always striving in partnership with my colleagues here to get more air service to the region, and both for people as well as air cargo, oftentimes forgotten about, but air cargo is a really important economic driver. And then the other area that we sort of work in terms of regional growth is land development. Airports own a lot of land, a lot of them do. We own over 7,000 acres between the two airports. And so always working with our partners to develop that land in ways that create high quality jobs, goods and services that the region needs, is obviously aviation as a focus, but also non-aeronautical activity as well. So that's really, when you ask that question, that's what comes to mind for me. Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Taylor, Mike, who's going to jump in next?
I'll go. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it, and thank you for having us today. It's a pleasure to be here. So, as the president and CEO of the Reno-Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, we are primarily taxed with tourism. So when you talk about what role does our organization play in terms of promoting growth in the region, I really look at tourism, because as it relates to tourism, we're responsible for bringing patrons, visitors to our region, and we represent all of Washoe County. So we're looking at multiple segments, right? Everybody thinks of the traveler that's coming here on their own, known as an FIT or a free independent traveler. But you also have people that are purchasing and exploring the area through vacation packages. They're buying airline packages. And then, of course, the convention side. So how does that all, when you put that all together, you look at people that are visiting our area, that are spending disposable income within our region, and we're generating not only room revenue and room tax, but we're also impacting economic impact. And the economic impact cycle of all that is that then parlays and parallels into spend within the community, retail, restaurants, hotels, transportation, and it really just contributes to the entire pie. So although we're a big piece of the pie, it takes it all to come together in order to be successful.
Great. Taylor.
Again, Phil, thanks so much for having us. And I'll just follow on to what Daren and Mike said. Our EDAWN works almost exclusively in the commercial and industrial portions of our economy, and our job is to sustainably grow that part of the economy. We do that tactically through a number of things. The thing that most people watching this are going to be aware of probably would be the business attraction part of what we do. It's where we bring out-of-market companies actively through sort of what would be relationship-based selling and convince them to locate or expand here into Northern Nevada. In addition to that, we work in business retention and expansion, which means we're helping our local businesses grow and scale and expand here. We work in entrepreneurial development, and then we work pretty actively to make sure that our educational providers understand the needs of our employers and that we're making a great day one employee so that we can maintain the competitive advantage that makes us the ideal place to grow.
It's perfect. Thank you. The big part of the show is, I don't know if everybody, especially our followers, or what percentage of our followers really understand what each of your entities do. They have an idea, but today, part of this show and future shows is just to explain to people what you do and some of the obstacles, barriers, your priorities are. So thank you for giving a broad overview, but let's talk about what success, our priorities. Let's talk about what priorities are for the next year. I imagine that changes a lot. So who wants to take a crack at what the priorities are, and then what does success look like when you talk about those priorities?
I'll jump in. So first, if you're paying attention to the national economy right now, there's a touch of uncertainty that's been floating around, and that can be attributable to a number of things, to general uncertainty around the sort of the persistent high interest rates, to tariffs, to what's the global economic environment look like. So I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that planning for us is a bit of a challenge right now, because we're working to try to figure this out. What we do know, though, is that it generally seems to be true that our economy grows on the back end of a presidential election. And you just have to have the presidential election to know which part of your economy is going to expand and lead that growth. So we're actively trying to benchmark that in our own organization right now, and then be one of the first communities in the country to pivot to what we think the new normal will be over the next 4 years. We're starting to see some success in those endeavors, where our pipeline, when we look at our peers, our pipeline compared to many of our peers is considerably stronger. One of the things that really helps us is Northern Nevada has been one of the only places in the country that's shown net positive manufacturing growth over the past 15 years, and so we're certainly leaning into that as we're trying to reshore American manufacturing that left our country over the 40 preceding years. So we feel like we're in a good position, but mostly right now we're just trying to be one of those early adopters to the direction our country's headed on the back end of the presidential election.
And what does success look like? It's such a hard thing, especially with all the variables.
So the primary measures for us when it comes to success are new capital investment in our market and net new jobs. And so important to know that economies are always simultaneously expanding and contracting. So we always say net positive, because we want there to be more capital investment than there is capital reduction. We want there to be more job investment and job growth than there is job reduction. And so in both cases for us, it's that a year from now, we're looking at the draft measures that we'll be presenting to our board next month, actually. I anticipate that we're going to try to deliver about 2,000 net new jobs to the region in our next fiscal year, and just over $2 billion in net new capital investment.
With just a tad of uncertainty in the world today.
Just a tad. Just a touch. Yeah.
Mike, talk about your priorities and what's the success look like for you?
Our priorities is to drive tourism to the region, to Washoe County, to Northern Nevada. And you're going to see a bit of a pattern, I think, in following Taylor's comments, and I'm guessing Daren will have similar thoughts as well, is that we are funded by room tax, 100% our organization. In order to drive room tax, you have to have room revenue. In order to have room revenue, you have to have visitation. And that is that domino effect of the uncertainty that is what's happening on the national level. Is we are going through the process right now of establishing our budgets for next year. We're on a fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th. And there is a lot of uncertainty and unknown, and it's very difficult to forecast what room tax, room revenue, and visitation is going to look like when you look at a competitive landscape of everybody is fighting for that same customer. And we have been very fortunate in Northern Nevada, being predominantly a drive market as it relates to constant visitation, that we have been able to get over some of these tougher times, especially coming out of COVID and that ramp-up period. We performed very well. What we don't know is that unknown factor is how is the American consumer going to respond to what's happening on a national level? Are they going to keep their funds closer to the vest? Are they going to take more frequent, closer to their home trips, which could benefit Northern Nevada? Or are they going to continue to travel abroad and go to the places that they didn't go to for so many years? So that is definitely a priority. It's definitely a concern and a challenge, but we're doing everything we can to prepare ourselves to the best of our ability.
Darren, before you jump in, is your budgeting cycle all the same?
Yeah,
Fiscal year?
Fiscal year?
We're all
Fiscal
in
year?
July 1 fiscal
Okay.
year, yeah.
Darren?
So our priority is really infrastructure, and we have a well-documented program titled More R&O, which is really a $1 billion effort to rebuild the airport, Reno-Tahoe International Airport. It's been 15 years since there was a major project at the airport, and this community has changed a lot in 15 years.
sure
and we've
has.
kind of ended up in a place where we need to do everything at the same time, which is a tremendous amount of work, but this is the year where we are breaking ground on ramp expansions, new concourses, new ground transportation center for all the rental car operators, and a headquarters building and a police station so that we can move out of the terminal building and free up that space for our tenants. We've been planning for this for the better part of 3 years now, and the next 12 months really will be the beginning of all of those projects. And one of them is already underway and the others are following quickly. So it really takes a lot of time, energy, and focus to drive a $1 billion program through an organization of 260 people. Wow. It's a tremendous amount of work, but it's exciting, right? And
well, what you've done already is amazing. I mean, it looks beautiful.
We've done a
down
couple
there.
projects already, and that was kind of the warm-up act. These are the big projects now that we're getting ready for. And it is exciting, and it's not a build it and hope they will come scenario. It is driven by growth, and it's really driven by just aging infrastructure and looking around the region at the success that Mike is having and that Taylor is having around Northern Nevada. All of that manifests itself at the airport in terms of people taking trips for 1,000 different reasons.
Yeah, it looks like it's awfully busy down there all the time, and the way you're able to get it all done and keep people happy is amazing.
It is busy all the time. I mean, right now should be the slow period, right? Spring break is over. School doesn't get out until the 1st of June, and typically you see this as a lull in airport activity. And I flew on Saturday and Sunday of this past weekend, and both flights were full, 100%. Airport numbers are busy every day. It's not letting up much, and because just the pace of activity right now is high. And when Taylor is successful or Mike is successful, I benefit at the airport because whether it's tourism or business travel, they're all flying for one reason or another, and that's why we're focused on infrastructure. We need more airport and a more modern airport.
We're going to talk about how you all tie in a couple of questions. So, but before we move on to that, opportunities and challenges. You must have one or two things in each category you want to share. Who wants to jump in and talk about opportunities and or challenges? Because I want the audience to know what's going on, the world you live in, and there's a lot of information out there that might not be accurate, that might be accurate, or you just want to kind of condense it and clarify some things. So who wants to take a crack at that?
I'll lead off, Phil, in the rotation here. So I think as it relates to opportunities, I could talk about this probably for the duration of the show, but to limit my response, I really look at, we're going through the process right now of bringing on a new agency of record and going out to bid. So the opportunity to utilize in either extension of an existing relationship or have a new relationship with an agency of record allows us to really tell the story about Northern Nevada and about Reno-Tahoe. And although it is always a work in progress, I think we have made tremendous advancement from the standpoint of addressing the perception of the destination. We find that if we can get a consumer, if we can get a meeting planner, if we can get a decision maker to our market, we win more than we lose. Those opportunities are those aha moments of people that have either never been to Reno-Tahoe or have not been to Reno-Tahoe in years. And so the opportunities to showcase our destination and what obviously Lake Tahoe speaks for itself, from the equity in the brand, being one of the most beautiful places in North America, that's an easy sell. It's getting people to Reno and Sparks and showcasing everything that's changed over the last 10 years. Right. Challenges, again, I come back to the unknown, the uncertainty. And so when you're creating a budget and you're allocating funds towards marketing and sales activities, you want to be obviously financially responsible, but you also want to put the pedal to the metal when you have an opportunity to take advantage of a competitive landscape that we may be in a stronger financial position than our competitors.
Who else wants to jump in? Opportunities, challenges.
Sure. So I really see our opportunities. One is our growth. 2024 was the busiest year we've had in 17 years. We're going to pass through 5 million annual customers in 2025, a really big number, a number that we haven't really seen since the Reno Air days, which was a different kind of customer, right? That was an airline based in Reno, connecting people through the terminal building, but not using the parking, not using really the ground transportation system, and not necessarily spending any money in our community. All of our travel now is what we call origin and destination. Everybody coming through the airport is either coming to Reno in Northern Nevada or they're heading out. And so that growth has presented a lot of opportunity for us to really reframe the story around our infrastructure, to have revenue streams that support growth and modernization, and really I need a lot of votes from my board to get to yes on all the ways we're trying to spend money. And when you have a growth story, people want to vote yes on those things. They want to see investment. They want to see forward thinking, strategic thinking, and what are we doing to get ready for 2030? And so that really is the opportunity that we're maximizing on right now. The challenge is, to Mike's point, and Taylor talked about uncertainty, consumer confidence. A lot of people stopped flying if consumer confidence wanes. We don't see that today, but I won't be surprised to see that show up later this year as the picture becomes clear on tariffs and interest rates and things like that. Discretionary spending always backs off. Also, craft labor. It is a challenge to build $1 billion worth of infrastructure. We need a lot of steel workers, drywallers, plumbers, electricians, and there's a lot of things being built in northern Nevada. We compete like anybody else for the craft labor. So that is a real challenge to get that labor to the airport, to get it committed for a 3 to 4 year program and really get prices that we can afford. I need it to be $1 billion, not 1.2 billion, right? And so that is really the challenge because there's only so much of that to go around in our region. And if you're bringing it from Las Vegas or Sacramento, you're fundamentally paying a lot more for labor. And so really hoping we can overcome that challenge and get great partnerships in our community.
Yeah, I'm sure prices are going down across the board with all the vendors, right?
Sure, Phil, sure.
We can live in that.
Just
we can
like
live for that
eggs
dream.
and gas, right?
Everything. We can dream. We can dream. Taylor.
Yeah. So for us, a couple of great opportunities that we're seeing. First, we're finding that we're kind of becoming a preferred destination in America where tech manufacturing can go to scale. That's been evidenced by a number of the announcements that we've made here in the last few months, but it really started in 2017 with Tesla, and then Aqua Metals, American Battery, Dragonfly Energy, Redwood Materials. I can go on, and Panasonic. I can go on and on and on, but that's really created some energy around our region as we've demonstrated that not only can we build these facilities, but we can staff them and that we can be successful in that space. So one, we really want to double down on this. It's not even an emergent trend anymore. It's just a trend that shows that we can do these things. Secondarily, if you look at our work, my organization's work over the last 40 years, it's been very California-centric. And that's not to say that that's not to be critical of the state of California, where it's just we're sort of uniquely located with a much lower cost of living and operation in most cases. And that's been attractive to a lot of California business that wanted to take advantage of what is really the most business-friendly corporate code in the nation that we have here in Nevada. Well, over the last 18 months, we've taken those principles and we've looked east. Here's what's great. In the last 12 months, we located projects from 10 other states that weren't California or Nevada, and we actually did business on 3 different continents last year. So really, really exciting sort of data point for our region. It means that the things that we have believed to be true are true as it relates to business attraction and the attractiveness of the region. It's not just about price. It's about the quality of life here, the cultural pillars that we have here. We're finding that what we have here is attractive for everybody. Challenges around that is the requirement that we to grow within the confines of the regional infrastructure that we have today. It's not good for me to locate factories that we can't staff. So obviously we've got to have new housing starts. I've got to have a place for people to live. We got to have roads that efficiently get people to and from work. We got to have power, water. And now we're fortunate to be one of the only communities in the West that can say, with a straight face that we've got water to supply your need. That said, we've also got to be strategic in how we deploy that capacity. And so for us, the challenges are all about making sure that we're growing within without overly taxing the infrastructure that we have today.
So, thank you. The thing I know, I mean, you're friends. That's the first part. You all work together. Right? We're all friends, right? We all work together. You all serve a very vital role. But I know people are probably surprised that they don't realize how close you work. Could you share some examples of some of the things you've done in the past and maybe how you work together and how it helped?
Sure. I'll lead the way on that one. And my friends and I, air service is a team sport. Mm-hmm. lots of airport CEOs can go to Dallas or Chicago or Atlanta and talk to an airline and say, we need more air service. They don't want to hear from us. They want to hear from business leaders and tourism leaders about why, moving an airplane to Reno and flying a new route makes sense, the support they can put behind that. And so Mike and Taylor and I have been on the road together, pitching Southwest or Delta, why we should have more or better service. Mike is hosting us up at the lake for kind of a who's who of airline decision makers on airplanes and networks this summer. So that's the one I will lead with. There's others, but air service really is a community effort. It's a team sport. It's not just an airport going out and begging airlines to give us more airplanes. They want to hear from the people that really drive the economic indicators. And so it's great to work with these guys and that we are closely working together all the time on this. It's not just a once or twice a year thing. We're talking about air service in the context of the Regional Air Service Corporation on almost a weekly basis, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great one where we work together constantly.
I'll take a shot at following that.
Okay.
I think that's definitely the priority as it relates to how I would define the benefits of our working relationship. But I must say that, yes, we are all friends, and that makes things obviously much easier on a work side and professional side as well. That being said, I would also say that our teams have collaborated and worked together very well, which is important as well, right? And I think they see the synergy amongst us as leaders within our respective organizations, and that trickles down throughout the entire team. So since Daren took the priority number one as air service as a team sport, I also look at tourism from the inbound side as also a team sport. Mm-hmm. So when we are pursuing an opportunity, whether that may be a major sporting event or a major convention, corporate or association or a Smurf piece of business, I know that I have the confidence that I can rely on reaching out to Taylor and his team and Daren and his team, is that we need to sell this as a unified group, as a destination, not just from the tourism standpoint. Those decision makers want to hear about air service. They want to hear about what the opportunities that are in front of us that we're looking at and working on as a group. They want to hear about economic development and who's relocating to our destination. They want to hear about the university and it being a Tier 1 university. So that partnership from the inbound side of driving tourism to the region is really important.
Agree with everything both Mike and Daren just said, and assumed that I was going to say the same thing as it relates to economic development. It absolutely is a team sport. So every time Mike brings a new group to town, that's everyone that's coming here for the first time that has a great experience in our community for the first time works for a company that we would love to recruit downrange. As it relates to how we get them here, the ease with which we can get them into the market gives us a greater chance to be successful and ultimately locating a business. It's one of the things that I think about it, and it's where I'm so grateful for. We are friends, but I'm also really grateful for Daren and for Mike and their organizations, because if you think about it, this is a community that routinely punches above its weight class. Mm-hmm. If all of my investors expect me to go toe-to-toe with Salt Lake City and Phoenix and Dallas every day. The truth is, there's no comp set that you're going to build that has any of those communities as a comp for us. My comp set should be Fort Wayne, Indiana, Tulsa, Fayetteville, Arkansas. And that's not to denigrate those communities. Those are great communities. But because of the work that Mike does in tourism, because of the work that Daren does at the airport and to improve air service there, we actually can compete with markets that are 10 times our size. I mean, there's a reason that our investors have that expectation. It's because we have won deals where we were competing head to head with those much larger communities multiple times. And I'm sure Mike could tell you about conventions that he's won from that group. And Daren can tell you about air service expansions we got that they didn't get. And I think it is because in this community, we've gotten over the questions of whether we're going to work together. We know that we are going to work together because we've seen what positive it can bring to all of our organizations.
Well, I want to jump in on that because I think for people who are watching, they might think of it as the 30,000-foot level. How does that relate to my small business or medium-sized business? I can just tell you from the National Automobiles perspective, every one of you organizations have a significant impact on us. Your team has significantly made a difference by getting us more visibility when people come out of town. Your team has significantly made a difference for us by when new businesses come in, letting them know that we've been here since 1989. I think one of you said people forget or people lose track of things. They forget we've been here that long. And then a significant part of our growth is tied to people flying into this town looking for something to do and saying, what am I going to do today? So I can just tell you right now, our business, literally, it's a strong word, has been saved, the National Automobile Museum, as a direct result of your cooperation and what you've done and your teams you brought to the table. So when people are watching, oh, now this is above my pay grade, we're talking 30,000 foot level. No, this is the people with the mom and pop pizza joint. This is the people that are working the concessions of LA. These are the people that have museums. This is what keeps us alive. And the fact that you're all working together, I've worked in other markets when I can tell you it'd be unlikely to get three of you in the room together, let alone talk and have a beer or a drink or a soda together. So that's really refreshing. And I know you're not getting into all the meat and potatoes, but the fact that you're going out and how powerful it is that you're going out to these locations, I know, again, from my experience in previous life, that if you come in with 2 or 3 people that are the drivers in the community, the people you're presenting to have a much higher level of confidence. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And you're seeing it already.
Absolutely.
Well, and Phil, I got to thank you for one of those, 'cause it was just 10 days ago that we had a prospect in town. And as you know, that's a prospect that I need to win. We're competing with 2 other great communities in America for a manufacturing deal. Probably won't go in Washoe County proper, but this is a community that's going to probably invest $20 million in Churchill County, I think, and it's going to employ a couple hundred people there. It'll be a game changer for the part of Churchill County where this is going to go. Well, we found out in the middle of the meeting that the guy that owns the company that was here visiting us is a car enthusiast, and so was his wife. And so on the fly, Phil got me in. And what we also found out is they really love Corvettes, and so on the fly, Phil helped me arrange an opportunity for them to see John Wayne's Corvette that's here in the museum. I think it's the first Corvette to come in the West.
First Corvette to ever make it on the West Coast.
Yeah,
It was
and
John Wayne's, and he sat in it. He is all smiles.
Oh, and so, but just so you know, the experience you helped me create for someone who we really needed to have a good experience was an accelerator in that deal, and I'm grateful.
Well, it's just an example of us working together.
For sure.
Well, and I want to piggyback on that because, tourism oftentimes starts at the airport. So while Mike helps me with air service, we're also partnering in the terminal building with, imagery and making sure people know where they're at the minute they get there. Mike has pitched a concept of having live music in the airport. We're working the details out on that. We're working with you on getting one of your cars on display in the airport. So, the terminal building itself is oftentimes, it's the first and last impression, right? So these partnerships go across northern Nevada, but also they get very local. And like when people are waiting for the plane to get here or take off, what are they looking at? What are they listening to? And we focus on food and beverage and things like that too. But it's just these partnerships kind of have no bounds, and the richness of them just creates a better experience for our customers.
I think the kiss of death is when organizations say, well, that's the way we've always done it. It doesn't work long that way. That's why things go under. But the fact that all of you, my interactions with you, is you're going to take advantage of all these new ideas and working together. That's what makes the big difference here. So when you're talking to different people outside, what's the pitch? Is there anything that you want to share with us? When you describe our area, I don't want to get into too much of a detail, but anyone want to take a comment on when you're talking about our area, what do you promote? What do you pitch when you're talking to individual clients?
So I'll take the lead on this one, Phil. So, specifically, I'll go again to the sales aspect, right? Because it is such an important part of building a foundation with our bed base and having conventions in our market. So when we're making a pitch, whether it's to a first-time visitor or, again, someone who hasn't been to the region in years, we focus obviously on the recreation, the outdoors, the beauty, natural beauty of this area. To go to Lake Tahoe in 45 minutes and showcase what Lake Tahoe has to offer, which, we are all spoiled and probably a little bit, how would I say, we probably don't give it as much credit as it rightfully deserves. It is obviously one of the most beautiful lakes in North America, if not the most beautiful. And then from the standpoint of entertainment and quality of product, right, We feel that where we are now as a region in 2025, and with the capital that has been invested within our product in this region, that we can put our product in terms of our hotels, our casinos, our select service, limited service properties up against anyone. And we can compete in that space, and we're very comfortable with that. Entertainment. And then the last thing I'll say that is really important that we push is value. There is still value in our community. The cost of doing business in this market, especially on the convention side, is very affordable. And, just to piggyback again on Daren and Taylor's comments about partnerships and going both ways in terms of you're talking about what we do to the region, but I want to make sure that your audience also knows that you have an excellent partnership with the RSCVA, and that's something that we pitch as well. And I'll give you a great example of that is, when we're walking potential clients around our convention center, a facility that is 600,000 square feet with 5 exhibit halls and 57 meeting rooms, and then all of a sudden we have this vehicle parked in our foyer area of the convention center. The conversation piece that generates for us and leads into describing this museum and describing what you have done to lift the bar and raise the bar in this facility is a great selling point. And then they come to the museum and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. And just by having those vehicles in our facility created a conversation that separated us from the conversation and gave us a better chance to win that business for the region.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a great partnership. Any other?
So yes, for us, the pitch is fairly straightforward. I mean, we're in the real estate business ultimately, so it's land, it's labor, and then it's infrastructure that allows that to happen. And so for us, what's interesting is there are lots of places with land, labor, and infrastructure. And so I think we have 2 advantages in that space. First and foremost, it's, as I mentioned a minute ago, it's the great work that Daren and Mike are already doing. Because for markets our sizes, across the country, you won't find a better community our size, or you won't find another community our size that has better air service than we have. I mean, and it's not really close. But that's also because of the great work that's historically been done here in tourism and in hospitality. It's the quality of life that flows out of the work that Mike does that really gives us something to talk about, so that we can create experiences that our peers just can't create when we're in the recruiting process. And then other than that, this is where I'll brag on my own team a little bit. We're just going to outwork everybody. That's really what it comes. And I know it's true of Mike and Daren as well. There are a lot in our world. It's not a zero-sum game. There's one winner and everybody else is a loser. It's really that simple. And so for us, and I've seen it in their organizations as well, we're just going to outwork our competitors because quite frankly, that's what everybody in Northern Nevada expects us to do. So we're just going to go out there and outwork you and hope that leads to the right result. And so far it has.
And then I would say for us, Phil, the pitch is oftentimes an educational process on the changing customer that we see through the airport. 15 years ago, 70% of the people coming through Reno-Tahoe International Airport came from a zip code that wasn't in Northern Nevada. And now it's almost 50-50, and that a lot of our customers live in Northern Nevada. And when we're out explaining the changes in, Northern Nevada region, it's often a conversation around the emerging tech industry, the diversification of the economy, the reinvestment by the gaming properties, both here and up around the lake, is significant. The lake speaks for itself, like Mike said, and everybody knows Lake Tahoe. They're not always keeping abreast of what level of investment is happening, where the great indoors meets the great outdoors, and this is the airport that can serve that and really fit in that space. And so that oftentimes it's an education of, it's not the Reno-Tahoe that people knew 15 or even really 10 years ago. It's changing. And as Taylor said, and I can't remember when we were talking about it, but what you said to me was the story is not yet finished on Northern Nevada. And I think that's so true, that this story is still evolving. And that's part of the pitch, that whether it's air service or a business or somebody we're trying to attract to a piece of property, it's get in here while you still can afford to, while the growth upside is still so strong in this market, and the growth speaks for itself. So,
you know what I love? I love when people come into the museum and they're from any one of your entities. You brought somebody in, and literally in the first 5 or 10 minutes, or certainly before they leave, their feedback and they open up is, I just didn't know. I didn't know we had so much to offer. I didn't understand the tourism. I didn't understand the economic development. I didn't understand how easy it was to get here from the airport and the transportation you guys have. And I love that, but I just want them to know quicker. I want to get the word out quicker. But it kind of ties into the next question, like 5 to 10 years from today, where do you think from your different perspectives you'd like to see us?
You want me to jump first on this one?
So
Yes, sir.
take the lead, sir.
So,
The perfect world, where would we be?
So first, as I mentioned from the uncertainty from the first question, I don't know that I can predict 12 months accurately right now, but
Next year,
Yeah.
where would you like to be next year?
But no, here's what I think about 5 to 10 years from now. It really speaks to the, and this isn't just about economic development. This is about the future of our region. At the State of the Economy speech this year, if you were there, there's a really interesting data point that the guys at Applied Analysis in Vegas gave as their portion of the speech, and they said if you back up 20 years. 5 out of 10 graduates from the University of Nevada stayed in Nevada. And from then to present, that has grown to 7 out of 10. That to me is really exciting because if we've gone from 5 out of 10 to 7 out of 10 graduates from the University of Nevada are staying here in Nevada, it means that our economy is maturing in a way and that we are able to offer careers that now compete with the rest of the country. I would love to tell you that in 5 years, 8 out of 10, and then in 10 years, 9 out of 10 young people that finish their education at the University of Nevada choose to stay here. And that matters to me because Mike's got one who's graduating this year. I think, Daren, you've got one next year or this year?
This year,
So
2 weeks.
So my oldest son will be a freshman at the University of Nevada this fall. I know that nothing would make us happier than to see our children have the same careers and the same lives that we have had, but get to do it here. We've all had to move around to have the careers that we wanted, and our kids may too. But knowing that there's a chance that our children can really put down roots in a community and accomplish in one place what the three of us have had to jump all over the country and really the world to accomplish would make me really happy.
I love that you said that because I am so fortunate. All 3 of my children live here, moved here. We followed them because of the opportunities here. And then now all 8 grandchildren live within a mile. And that's because of what the area has to offer. So I'm the poster child. This is perfect for us. Mike.
Sure, Phil. The first thing I would say is that obviously I want continued success for my colleagues and friends here in their respective areas, right? I want to see Taylor to continue and EDAWN to continue to have success in bringing new organizations, new companies to our area. I want to see Daren's airport. It will be complete in 10 years, so we know we'll be there, and he'll get that budget back to $1 billion instead of 1.2, and we will all get to benefit from his dedication and commitment and hard work to that project. And for someone that flies a lot, I see it literally evolve from every time I fly in and out of Reno-Tahoe. And it's yes, there are growing pains going through something of this magnitude, but the end product is going to be beautiful, and it's something that we're all going to be very proud of. In terms of the tourism side of it, I love the line and what Daren referenced and Taylor said is that, this story isn't over. We're not finished yet. And I think our destination is on the cusp of tremendous breakthrough in several areas. We sarcastically say around the office, we want to be the next Nashville. We want to be the next Austin. We want to be the next Charleston. And I really think that is something that is attainable. Maybe not tomorrow, but 5 and 10 years is tomorrow, and it goes that fast. And we are doing the things as a community and within our organizations to make the difference and take the steps to go in the right direction to accomplish those goals. So selfishly, yes, I want to be the destination when a family is sitting around a table and they say, where are we going on vacation this year? And they say Reno-Tahoe. And that's, to me, is when you know you've really made it in the travel space, is when people are identifying key markets and destinations and cities they want to visit.
I love it. We have so much to offer here. The biggest challenge is reminding people that we have it here. Daren?
Ditto what Mike said. I mean, I can't say it better than that, other than to say my goal really, we started in earnest planning this in 2023 in early design, and we were thinking 10 years ahead of where would we be in 2033, and more importantly, where would Northern Nevada be in 2033? And when you look at what's happening in tourism and our ability to compete and what Taylor is driving, we need the airport that can support that. And my goal is that by 2030, we will have that. We will have the gates and the rental car centers and just all the things that a big city airport needs to have to support aircraft of any type. And then the opportunity lies in air service, right? Canada, Mexico beach markets, New York, Nashville, hopefully before then. But I mean, part of our challenge right now is the infrastructure isn't good enough for some of these routes. The hold rooms aren't good enough. It's hard to accommodate some of the larger gauge aircraft. And we are fixing that with this level of investment. And, I talk about the airplanes a lot because I'm an airport guy, but rental cars are the way many people access Northern Nevada for business and pleasure. And that $300 million investment in the public-private partnership is transformational. And by 2028, that facility will be open. And I look at it every day of the lines of people waiting and the challenging experiences. So it's airplanes, but also automobiles is a lot of our business at the airport, and really excited for where we will be by 2030, the early 30s. I think we will be ready to provide the airport that this region and these leaders are driving.
I love it. Let me ask you the question. Is there anything out there that you think our audience doesn't know about your team, doesn't know about the work you do? Anything you want to share in the last couple of minutes?
Why don't you go first?
Sure, love to. Give it a shot. I think the way I'm going to answer that question, Phil, is that to share with your audience that the impact that tourism has on our entire community, from front-level hourly positions within the hospitality segment to retail, to restaurant, to transportation, to economic development, to the airport. It all comes together, and tourism really is the foundation. Obviously, gaming is critical to success to the success of the state of Nevada, but tourism really is the driver that gets us there. And so I would want to share with your audience that please understand that our organization is trying to put our region in a position to be the leaders in hospitality and drive more and more business to our region, which again fuels economic impact.
So for me, I often get asked the question, have we grown enough? Have we grown too much? Should we stop growing? And for me, the short answer to that is no. So, and the reason it's no is because we have to think 5 and 10 years in the future. Sure. If we want the same things that are true for us in the present to be true for our children, then they have to have jobs. They have to have jobs here that can allow them the opportunity to buy a house, to invest in our community, and to have all the things that we have. And so for us, the biggest poster I could offer for why growth matters is its growth. It's responsible industrial growth that will allow our children and grandchildren to live here with the same quality of life that we have. Now, we're not going to turn a blind eye to the need for more infrastructure. Certainly, we will need to make appropriate investments in infrastructure along the way to ensure that we don't create congestion in the region and things of that nature. But it's critical that we provide the same avenues to quality of life that we've had to our children and grandchildren, and that only comes through growth.
And then to wrap it up, I would say a lot of people don't realize we own the Reno State Airport. And I've talked a lot about the other airport. That airport is also a huge area of focus with 3,000 developable acres that I'm working in partnership with Taylor on. It's a future job center. It's a future center for additional aerospace development, whether it's drones, flight training, military aircraft, the Nevada Army Guard. It's a tremendous facility for flight training. And the next 10 years are going to be very bright at that airport, and we're working really hard there too. It often gets overlooked, as I've largely overlooked it on this conversation, but I remembered here at the end and so excited about those opportunities and letting people know what we're doing up there. Thanks, Phil.
A lot of growth, a lot of opportunities. Before we wrap up, I want to ask a question because before we went live, we were just kind of talking, getting things ready with the mic, and what you guys shared we're the Automobile Museum. I have to bring it back to that. So could you guys please wrap up our great show with your first car and if there's a story, because I want to hear. Northern Nevada wants to hear.
All right, I'll take the lead, Phil. First car was a 1982 RX-7, which is a hand-me-down from my oldest brother. I had that vehicle from my junior year in high school through my sophomore year in college. Story, the first one that popped to mind is I remember driving home one time, and I grew up in Northern Nevada in Winnemucca, and I was driving home from Reno with a buddy, and it was a tremendous snowstorm. And one thing I learned very quickly is when you downshift in a 5-speed, your tires will grab. And I quickly spun off to the side of the road and sat there with him for about 5 hours waiting for someone to come get us. So definitely a driving experience.
So mine was a 1981 Pontiac Grand Prix that my dad and I pulled out of a junkyard and rebuilt together. Why? Because that's all I could buy with the $275 that I had to my name at that time, which, by the way, $275 was more money 40 years ago than it is today, or 30 years ago for sure. But yeah, that for me started what has become a lifelong love of cars, and have had I think that was the first of about 30 cars that my dad and I ended up building together. But that's probably the only one of those 30s that I got to own and drive. So anyway.
And for me, it was a 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit. I was a private in the U.S. Army. I wanted to buy my first car, and in true Army fashion, I went to a used car dealership with one of my Army buddies as my advisor. It was $3,000. I didn't have that much cash, so I financed it. I think it was around 10% interest is what I paid at a used car dealership for my first car. But it served me well and began my education in business. So fond memories.
Isn't it funny that I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but almost everybody remembers their first car. And typically when asked that question, the very first thing they do is they smile because it brings back a good memory. Mike, Taylor, Daren, thank you very much for coming on What Drives Reno. Thank you for everything you do in the community, and we're so grateful to have you all. For those of you who are here watching us today, What Drives Reno, we encourage you to learn more. We'll have additional information at the end of this show and on our website. If you haven't been to the National Automobile Museum in a long time, we encourage you to come down. We're at www.automuseum.org. And until next week, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Phil.
Bill.